He went to surprise the woman he loved with a special gift, but what he saw inside her house shattered his heart. Was it betrayal, or a truth that would change everything forever? Stay tuned because you're about to watch a beautiful story and find out what happened next. Hello, family. Welcome to Tales Haven. Kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel for more beautiful stories. Thank you as you do so. Sit back, relax as we dive into the story. Noah Reed turned the tiny velvet box over in his hand as he sat in his parked car. The box looked small, but to him it felt heavy with meaning. Inside lay a simple silver necklace with a heart-shaped pendant, no diamonds, no grand design, just clean lines and a warm shine. He had chosen it because Grace liked things that were honest and plain. He could still hear her voice from months ago at a street market. Simple things last. They don't shout. They stay. He smiled at the memory and checked the time on his phone. Early evening. The sun was low, tipping the roofs with orange light. Children's laughter floated from the next street. Someone grilled corn nearby, and the smoke carried a sweet, toasty smell. The city felt kind. Noah's hands were rough from work, small cuts, a scratch near his thumb. He rubbed the pad of his thumb across the velvet lid. He thought about how long it took to save for the necklace. Extra shifts, small sacrifices, walking past a cafe without buying coffee, fixing a neighbor's fan for a little cash, saying maybe next month to himself when he saw a jacket he liked. Every time he didn't spend, he pictured the necklace at Grace's throat and felt sure. He pulled the box close and whispered the words he had practiced. "Grace, you believed in me when I had nothing but a toolbox and a plan. Wear this so you remember, I will never stop choosing you." He put the box in his pocket, grabbed the small paper bag with her favorite chocolate bar, and stepped out of the car. He didn't park in front of her place. He wanted to walk the last part, to let the quiet build. He moved down the sidewalk, counting his steps to calm his nerves. 8 houses. He knew the cracks in the path by memory. He knew which yard had the dog that always watched from behind the gate, had tilted, soft eyes. By house 5 his heart began to race. Slow down, he told himself. It's just Grace. It's always been Grace. He reached her small rented home. White paint that needed care, 2 blue flower pots on the steps, and a wind chime she bought for cheap that still made a pretty sound when the air moved. The front window had a thin curtain that softened the room from the outside. Warm light glowed through it. He heard a sound that made his chest grow warm. Grace's laugh. It had layers, light on top, rich underneath. Then, overlapping with her laugh, came a deeper voice. Steady, confident, familiar. Noah stopped. He knew that voice from company town halls, from investor days streamed on big screens, from short visits to the design floor when everyone stood a little taller. Alexander Pierce, founder and CEO of Pierce Dynamics. Noah's boss's boss. The man whose name lived on the building and in the news. The air felt thinner. A faint tremble ran through Noah's arms. Why is he here? His first thought was innocent. Maybe a delivery went wrong. Maybe Grace needed help with a volunteer thing. She loved community work. He took one careful step closer to the window, then another, drawn by a tight, worried string inside him. He stood by the side of the window where the curtain didn't fully touch the frame. The gap was small, barely a finger wide. He slid his gaze through. Inside, Alexander sat on Grace's couch. His jacket was folded on the armrest, his tie loosened as if he'd been there long enough to relax. Grace leaned toward him with 2 cups of tea. She set one on the table, touched his shoulder with the light, familiar pat she used when someone looked stressed, and said something Noah could not hear. Alexander smiled. Grace smiled back. Then they both laughed at the same time, easy and open. The world tilted. The velvet box in Noah's pocket felt like a hot stone. He pulled it out without thinking and it slipped. The box hit the concrete step with a soft tap. The sound was small, but in his head it was loud. A bell, a break, a sign. He flinched and crouched fast, grabbing the box with clumsy fingers. His breath came short. No, not this. He pressed the box tight in his palm and stood. He told himself to knock and ask. He told himself to trust her. He told himself 5 good reasons this could be innocent. But the picture in front of him, his powerful boss on his fiancée's couch, her hand on the man's shoulder, their shared laugh, grew larger than words. Heat climbed Noah's neck. His mouth went dry. He took 2 careful steps back, then a third, like a person moving away from a sudden drop. He turned, slid the box back into his pocket, and walked. He did not run. He did not shout. He did not knock. He just walked away from the window, past the flower pots, down the 2 steps that had once felt like home, and into the evening that had lost its color. Behind him the wind chime moved and made a gentle sound. In front of him the street lights blinked on one by one, as if the city were opening its eyes to a night Noah did not want to enter. He reached his car, opened the door, sat, and closed it softly. He looked at his hands on the steering wheel and did not recognize them. The gift, love shaped into silver, suddenly felt like a mistake. He set the box on the seat and stared at it until the headlights of a passing car washed over it and then drifted away. He turned the key. The engine caught. He breathed out once, shaky and long, and pulled into the road without a plan. Only pain, only fear, only the sound of Grace's laugh mixing with a voice that did not belong in her living room. And the evening light, once warm, now lay cold on the hood of his old blue sedan as he drove into it. He drove without a map, the small velvet box sliding on the passenger seat as the car turned corners. The city's edges blurred. He passed a bakery closing for the night, a barber sweeping hair into a neat pile, a couple sharing fries on a bench. Ordinary scenes, but they looked far away, like pictures in a book he couldn't read. His phone buzzed. Grace calling. He let it ring. It buzzed again. He let it ring. The 3rd time he picked it up and stared at her name while the screen glowed. He could almost hear her voice through the glass, the way she said his name, soft and certain. He pressed the side button and sent the call away. Seconds later, a text arrived. "You're early? Are you close? Everything okay?" He couldn't answer. The words in his head were smoke. He turned into the empty parking lot behind his apartment building. A broken streetlight clicked and hummed as if trying to work through a headache. He killed the engine and listened to the quiet. The quiet was not comfort. It was heavy. His hands shook. He put them on his knees to hold them still. He had not cried in years. He cried now, short, hard breaths, eyes burning, the kind of tears that surprise you because you thought you were stronger than this. He covered his face. The steering wheel pressed into his chest as he bent forward. Minutes passed, or hours. Time bent. When the tears slowed, the anger came, hot at first, then cold. He thought of Alexander in the office. Calm, admired, always in control. He thought of Grace with her kind touch, her open laugh, her clear eyes. He thought of himself, the man who brought a simple gift and left with a shattered picture. His phone buzzed again. Another text. "Noah, where are you? I'm worried. Please call me." He placed the phone face down on the seat and stared through the windshield at nothing. Across the lot, a stray cat walked like it knew where it was going. A bus hissed on the next street as it stopped and started again. Life kept moving. Later, his phone rang with a name that still felt like a safe place. Mom. He answered. "Noah." Her voice was warm and strong, with that careful kindness she used when he was a boy and came home scraped and silent. "I made pepper soup. Come over. Or I'll bring some." He swallowed. "I'm okay," he said, and even he could hear the lie. "You sound like you're carrying too much," she said. "Put it down for night. Let me help." He closed his eyes. "I don't know how." "You learn," she said softly. "That's how people do hard things." They spoke for a few minutes about simple things. The soup, the neighbor's stubborn goat, the rain that might come. She did not push. Before they hung up, she said, "When you don't know what to believe, don't decide at midnight. Sleep first." He wanted to agree, but his mind was loud. After the call, he climbed the stairs to his apartment and opened the door into darkness that smelled faintly of laundry soap and old books. He did not turn on the lights. He set the velvet box on the little dining table and stood there, watching it as if it might speak. On the wall hung a corkboard with tiny memories, a photo of him and Grace at the community fair, 2 ride tickets they never used, a note she had written on a sticky paper. "You fix more than machines." He pulled the note off the board, read it once, then put it back with shaking fingers. He showered, the water not hot enough to melt the tightness in his chest. He lay on the bed, stared at the ceiling, and listened to the building's small night noises, the elevator cable's soft hum, a distant door latch, some neighbor's late TV laugh track. He slept in pieces and woke with his jaw clenched. Morning did not bring peace. It brought the same heavy picture. He dressed for work anyway, clean shirt, worn belt, boots he polished out of habit. He slipped the velvet box into a drawer, as if hiding a wound. At Pierce Dynamics, the lobby smelled of lemon polish and new fabric. People moved with the fast, neat steps of a Monday. Noah nodded at coworkers and kept his face still. He settled at his station, opened the design file for a stubborn bracket they needed to finalize this week, and tried to vanish into lines and measurements. But grief made the numbers blur. He fixed small errors by reflex, his hands working, his mind away. He avoided the elevator that went to the executive floor. He avoided conversations longer than 2 words. By noon, a ping came from HR. "Mr. Reed, Mr. Pierce would like to see you today at 1 p.m. in his office." His stomach dropped. He read the sentence twice. 3 times. He knows. He'll move me. He'll fire me. The thought spun. He wiped his palms on his pants and replied with 1 word. "Okay." He could not eat. He drank water that tasted like nothing and checked the time every 3 minutes. At 12:58, he stood, smoothed his shirt, and headed for the elevator he had been avoiding. The doors opened to the executive floor, bright with glass and soft sound. Alexander's office faced the city like a calm ship's bridge. Plants stood tall, in white pots. The carpets didn't complain under footsteps. The receptionist gave Noah a polite smile. "Mr. Pierce will see you now." Noah stepped in. Alexander stood from behind his desk with a steady expression and offered his hand. "Noah," he said, voice warm. "Thank you for coming. Please sit." Noah sat on the edge of the chair, back straight, hands together so they wouldn't shake. He waited for the words that would fall like stones. But Alexander did not throw stones. He looked at Noah, really looked, and said in a quiet voice, "You look like you carried something heavy all night." Noah's jaw tightened. "I'm fine, sir," he said, because that was what men said when they were not fine. Alexander nodded once, as if he understood the small lie, and chose not to fight it. He folded his hands on the desk. "I'll be brief. There seems to be a misunderstanding, and it has touched work and people I care about. I'm going to place the facts on the table. You can accept them or not, but at least you will not be at the mercy of shadows." He reached for a leather folder, opened it, and slid out 2 documents. The first had a clean header with the company's name. The second had a short list and signatures at the bottom. "Yesterday," Alexander began, "I was at Grace's home to finish signing the weekend community tech pilot, laptops, mentors, safety policies, the last page. She insisted we meet there because one of parents planned to drop off a donated device and was only free between 6 and 7. It was warm, so I took off my jacket. She made tea because I had a headache." He held Noah's eyes. That is the whole story. He placed the signed community agreement on the desk where Noah could see the title, Neighborhood Girls in Tech, Pilot Program, Weekend. The page had time slots, safety rules, and a start date. Next Saturday. "Grace also asked me to evaluate you for team lead," he continued. "She believed you would never push yourself forward. She asked me to watch your work quietly for 3 weeks and decide." "I did." "This," he tapped the second document, "is my recommendation letter to HR. It was printed yesterday. I was going to hand it to her after the signatures so she could surprise you at dinner." Noah stared at the letter. His name in black ink, steady lines, the words reliable, patient, honest, respected. Alexander's signature at the bottom, like a door opening. The room tilted again, but in a different direction this time, away from anger, toward shame and sudden, aching relief. Noah swallowed and found his voice thin. I thought. I know what you thought, Alexander said softly, not unkind. I would have thought it too if I'd only seen hands, smiles, and no context. He leaned back, expression gentler. Noah, I knew Grace's mother through my late wife. I have known Grace since she was a teenager with too many library fines and a talent for organizing people. I look out for her. That's the whole relationship. He raised one eyebrow slightly. If I had known you were outside, I would have dragged you in, made you drink the bad tea, and sent you both to dinner early. Something like a laugh escaped Noah, half broken and half free. He pressed his fingers to his eyes for a second and breathed. Alexander waited. When Noah looked up again, the older man said, "Good workers are hard to find. Good men are harder. Don't let fear turn you into someone you are not." Noah nodded. "Yes, sir."
His voice steadied.
"Thank you for telling me. Thank you for the letter. I have apologies to make." "Start with her," Alexander said, a small smile touching his mouth. "Bring flowers if you can. Bring humility if you can't." Noah stood. "I will." He left the office holding the letter with careful hands, as if it might break if he gripped too hard. The elevator doors closed on the executive floor, and when they opened in the lobby, he headed straight outside. The afternoon air felt new. At a street stall, a woman sold white daisies in paper wraps. He bought the freshest bunch. Grace once said daisies looked like tiny suns that didn't burn you. He went to her house. The same steps, the same wind chime, the same thin curtain. He paused, drew a slow breath, and knocked. The door opened before his knuckles fell a second time. Grace stood there, hair pulled back, eyes a little swollen from a night of worry, mouth hopeful and unsure at once. "I was wrong," Noah said, voice clear and low, the flowers trembling in his hand. "I'm so sorry." Her breath hitched. She stepped aside. "Come in." He crossed the threshold he had walked away from the night before, and the wind chime behind him made a soft note like a new beginning. Grace's small living room was filled with quiet tension. The same room where Noah had once imagined spending cozy evenings now felt like a courtroom, warm light, soft furniture, and two people sitting across from each other, hearts full of unsaid words. Noah placed the bouquet of white daisies on the coffee table. The paper wrap rustled as if echoing his nervous breath. Grace sat opposite him, her fingers twisting slightly in her lap. Her eyes were swollen, but still gentle, eyes that once made him feel safe. "I didn't know you were coming that night," she said softly, breaking the silence first. "If I did, I would have explained everything right away." Noah lowered his head. "I didn't give you the chance," he said, voice low and heavy. "I saw something, and I let my fear speak louder than you." Grace blinked fast, holding back tears. "When you love someone deeply, sometimes fear looks just like love trying to protect itself," she whispered. "But it still hurts." Noah nodded, the words hitting him like a quiet truth. "You're right," he said. "And I'm sorry for not trusting you, for walking away, for thinking the worst." Grace's eyes softened. "What did Mr. Pierce say?" she asked, her tone calm but cautious. Noah exhaled deeply and opened his bag. He took out the neatly folded paper and placed it before her. "This," he said, "is what he showed me." Grace leaned forward and unfolded it. The moment her eyes found the header, Pierce Dynamics Employee Promotion Recommendation, her lips parted in shock. She read the words slowly, her hand trembling slightly. He actually did it." "He did," Noah said quietly. "He said you were the one who pushed for it. You told him I'd never ask for it myself." Grace looked up, her voice shaky but proud. "You deserved it, Noah. You've been working day and night, solving everyone's problems, fixing things without asking for praise. You just never believed you were good enough." Noah gave a weak smile. "And you believed it for me." She nodded gently. "Always." A silence settled between them, different from before. This one wasn't angry. It was tired but hopeful. Noah looked around the room. Everything felt familiar. The wooden shelf filled with her books, the faint scent of vanilla from her candle, the same blue curtains. But he noticed something new on the table beside her laptop, a folder labeled Neighborhood Girls in Tech, Community Program. He touched the edge of the folder. This was the other thing he mentioned, he said softly. The reason he came? Grace's eyes brightened a little.
Yes.
It's a project I've been dreaming about for months. Mr. Pierce agreed to help sponsor it. We're teaching teenage girls basic computer skills and coding on weekends. The laptops you saw on the table that day were donations from the company. Her voice grew stronger as she spoke, the pain in her tone slowly melting into quiet pride. He came that evening to finalize the agreement before the parents arrived. I made tea because he wasn't feeling well. That's all. Noah listened carefully this time, not just to her words, but to the truth beneath them. Every detail fit. Every explanation was simple. And every part of him that had been heavy began to lift, piece by piece. He took a slow breath, his eyes glistening. I thought I lost you, he confessed. Grace's eyes shimmered too. You almost did, she admitted, her voice trembling. Not because I stopped loving you, but because I felt like you stopped seeing me. Noah looked away, guilt twisting deep in his chest. You're right, he said. I let one moment erase years of love. I let doubt win. Grace reached across the table and gently took his hand. Noah, love isn't about never getting scared. It's about what you do when you are. If you had just knocked that night, if you had trusted me enough to ask, I would have found the truth, he finished for her. She smiled faintly. Exactly. He squeezed her hand softly. I promise, he said, voice breaking slightly. I'll never walk away again without asking. I'll trust you even when my heart trembles. Grace nodded, her tears falling freely now. And I'll forgive you, because I know your heart. It just needs to learn not to run from shadows. Noah's throat tightened. Thank you, Grace. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the velvet box. The sight of it made her cover her mouth in surprise. You dropped this that night, she whispered. I saw it outside when I went looking for you the next morning. He smiled sadly.
Yeah.
I meant to give it to you before everything went wrong. Grace opened the box slowly, her breath catching as she saw the delicate silver heart pendant gleaming under the light. Noah, it's beautiful. I wanted to remind you how much you mean to me, he said softly. But now, this necklace means something more, to never let fear ruin what love has built. She stood up and turned around, her voice trembling. Then put it on me. Noah rose to his feet. His fingers trembled slightly as he clasped the necklace around her neck. The silver heart rested against her skin, glowing faintly like a promise reborn. When she turned back to face him, her smile was gentle but strong. You can't undo the past, Noah, she said. But you can learn from it. He nodded, his voice low. And I will. Every single day. They stood in silence for a long moment, the soft hum of the city drifting through the window. Outside, the sky had started to turn a deep orange, and the wind chime by the door sang again, this time softly, like an old friend welcoming peace. Grace touched the pendant on her neck and looked at him. Stay for dinner? She asked, her voice hopeful. I made pasta. He smiled for the first time in 2 days. I'd like that. As she walked into the kitchen, Noah looked around the small living room again, now filled with warmth, not suspicion. The same space that had once broken his heart now healed it. He glanced at the framed photo on the wall, of him and Grace at the community fair, laughing, faces smudged with ice cream. He remembered the caption she had once written beneath it in marker. Love that listens never fails. He whispered it to himself as he sat down, waiting for her. Love that listens never fails. And for the first time in days, his heart finally felt at peace. Grace walked into the small kitchen and tied her apron. It won't take long, she called out with a light smile. The sauce is already halfway done. From the living room, Noah answered. Can I help? Please, she said. He joined her by the counter. The kitchen was warm and simple. White tiles, a pot on the stove, and a small window that watched the evening turn orange. He washed his hands and started chopping the tomatoes she placed before him. His movements were careful, almost tender, as if each slice could say, I'm here. I'm trying. I choose you. Grace stirred the pan, the wooden spoon moving in slow circles. I didn't sleep much, she admitted softly. I kept wondering if I should have run after you harder. Noah set the knife down. You shouldn't have to chase me to tell me the truth, he said. I should have asked. He touched her elbow gently. From now on, I will. A quiet peace settled between them. The sauce began to bubble. He tasted it on a spoon and smiled. Perfect. You always say that, she teased. It's always true. They cooked together like they had done many times before, Noah draining the pasta while Grace sprinkled basil and added a little butter like her mother had taught her. The smell filled the room, tomato, garlic, warmth, and it felt like their life finding its center again. They carried the plates to the small table by the window. Outside, the wind chime gave a small, shy sound. They ate slowly, sharing small looks, small smiles, and small sentences that meant big things. I was scared. So was I. We will do better. We will. When they finished, Grace wiped the table while Noah brewed tea. He returned with 2 cups and a pen with a small notepad he pulled from her desk. What's that for? She asked, curious. He sat across from her and spoke in a steady voice. Let's write our rules. Simple ones. So that when we're afraid, we won't forget what matters. Grace nodded. Okay. 3 rules. Noah wrote the first and read it out loud. 1. Ask first. I will ask you before I assume anything, he said. Even if it scares me. Grace smiled and wrote the second in her neat handwriting. 2. Assume love. If something looks confusing, I will start from love, not suspicion. Noah looked at her for a long moment, grateful, moved. Then he wrote the third. 3. Hold hands in the dark. When things feel uncertain, we will stay close. We will not walk away. They both looked at the 3 lines. The rules were small on paper, but they felt wide inside their hearts. Grace stood and pressed the note to the wall beside the window with a piece of tape. The paper looked a little crooked. She reached to fix it, then left it as it was. It doesn't have to be perfect, she said. It only has to be ours. They laughed. The room felt light again. Noah reached into his bag and lifted the recommendation letter. I told HR I accept the role, he said, his voice soft with pride and humility. Team lead training starts next week. Grace's eyes shone. Noah, she whispered, you did it.
We did, he said.
You believed first. He hesitated, then added, and if you're okay with it, I'd like to volunteer at your Saturday class. I can fix the laptops, set up the room, teach them how to use tools safely. Her mouth fell open in the happiest way. You would do that? I want to, he said. I want to be part of what you're building. Grace crossed the space and hugged him, long and close. Thank you, she murmured against his shoulder. This means more than you know. A week later, the community center buzzed with soft excitement. A row of donated laptops sat on folding tables. Posters with bright words, curiosity, courage, create, hung slightly uneven on the walls. Girls between 12 and 16 walked in with shy steps and wide eyes. Some clutched notebooks. One carried a pencil case decorated with stars. Grace stood by the door, welcoming each girl by name, her clipboard hugged to her chest. Noah moved around the room with a calm, focused smile, testing keyboards, plugging in chargers, showing 2 sisters how to use the touchpad. When a laptop froze, he knelt, explained what he was doing, and fixed it while the girls leaned in, fascinated. Try it, he said, sliding the laptop back. You won't break it. Machines are tougher than fear. The girls laughed, relaxed, and tried again. One of them, a tiny girl with bright eyes, looked up at Grace and whispered, I want to be like him. He doesn't give up. Grace watched Noah as he worked, gentle, patient, present. Her heart filled with a warm certainty. This is the man I'm going to build a life with. Not because he was perfect, but because he chose love over pride and truth over fear. Near the end of the session, Alexander Pierce walked in quietly, hands in his pockets. He stood at the back, watching with a reflective smile while Grace explained a simple coding activity and Noah guided a girl through her first line of code. After the class, Alexander approached them. "Good work," he said, his voice low, sincere. He looked at Noah. "Team lead training suits you already." "Thank you, sir," Noah replied. There was no stiffness in his tone now, only respect. "Also, for the truth." Alexander nodded once, as if to say, that is what people owe each other. He turned to Grace. "The program is off to a strong start. Send me your budget notes next week." "We will," Grace said. As he left, he paused and glanced at the rules taped on the community room's bulletin board. Grace had copied their 3 lines onto a bright card for the students. Ask first. Assume love. Hold hands in the dark. He smiled. "Good rules," he said, then stepped out into the afternoon. That evening, Noah and Grace walked home under a sky washed clean by a short rain. Puddles caught the streetlights and held them like secrets. They didn't hurry. They let the quiet talk too. At Grace's porch, they stopped by the wind chime. Noah took both her hands. "I want to visit my mother tomorrow," he said. "Tell her everything. The promotion. The program. Us finding our way back." Grace nodded. "I'll bake her banana bread." "She'll cry," he said softly, smiling. "She cries for happy things," Grace replied. "I like that." They stood close, breathing the same easy air. The silver heart on her neck caught the light and threw it back like a small moon. "Noah," she said, "I know love isn't a straight road, but I'm not afraid of turns anymore." "Me neither," he answered. "We wrote our map." He reached for the necklace and touched the pendant once, very lightly. "This started as a gift," he said, "but now it's a promise."
To ask. To trust.
To stay. Grace rose on her toes and kissed him, slow and sure, not a fireworks kiss, but the kind that builds a home. When they parted, both were smiling the quiet smiles of people who had walked through a storm and learned where the shelter is. From inside the house, the little note on the wall, crooked and perfect, waited for them. The wind chime gave one soft ring, as if blessing the night. They went in together, hand in hand, and closed the door gently on a world that suddenly felt kinder. Beautiful endings are not loud, Grace thought, leaning her head on Noah's shoulder as he locked the door. They are steady. They know how to stay. That brings us to the end of this video. I hope you find this story worth watching. If you do, kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel for more beautiful stories. Like and share this video to your friends and loved ones. Your support and engagement encourage me to post more videos. Thanks for watching.